Thank you so much for joining today's New American Task Force meeting. We're excited to get back to the groove of things. We have a lot accomplished last year and excited to see what we could do collectively together moving forward. I will review the agenda for today. Go to the next slide. As we mentioned before, agendas today will be giving you a recap about the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging and the Center for Immigration and Integration, which are the two leaders or conveners of the New Americans Task Force, as well as providing a snapshot of the survey. We did send out a survey earlier in a month and a half, about a month ago, just to get a baseline and assessment on how we did last year, as well as what the task force wanted us to see in the upcoming session. The next item on the agenda is international trained professionals and survey highlight. And we have Matt Hilburn, who is a researcher that was hired by the Center for Economic Opportunity and the Center for Immigration and Integration, who has been helping us with this survey. Very exciting outcomes that we want to share with you today, and will help us guide the work that we'll be working on collectively together. We'll also then be hearing from the Department of Commerce about some of the updates that they have on foreign credentialing in Utah. And then we'll have closing remarks. So just really quickly, just give a snapshot about the New Americans Task Force and the key areas. This might not be new for those of you who have worked with us in the past year, but for those of you who are new, just wanted to really quickly go over that priority areas of the New Americans Task Force. We have 5 areas of priority identified. The first one is economic opportunity, and specifically under economic opportunity, we're looking at opportunities for upskilling, small business development, and foreign degree credentialing, which is the 2 of the 3 that we'll be focusing on today's meeting. The second item is connected communities, and in this particular area, we're looking at areas of welcoming hubs. How do we help build up the hubs within communities to welcome immigrants and refugees in their communities? We're looking at immigration legal services and naturalization. This we have heard throughout our findings and focus groups last year, that this is a very important topic under connected communities, because being able to access immigration legal services and helping individuals to gain naturalization is key to integration. The next item is global talent. Under this area, we are focusing on international students. How do we help retain international students who are here, and being able to provide them a pathway to utilize their skills while they're attending universities and colleges. We're also looking at global talent recruitment. We have heard from industry partners that this is a very important component given the low unemployment rate in the state of Utah. How do we best attract and retain global talent into a community? The 4th area is education, K-12 education, as well as higher education, higher ed, resources for educators and families, and access to post-secondary education are the 2 areas of focusing on, working really closely with the Utah State Board of Education, as well as the Utah Higher System of Education, be able to coordinate and think about how we can work collectively to support immigrants and refugees in those 2 spaces. And lastly, is government leadership. In this particular area, we're looking at language access and state interagency coordination. I know that Nally will be going a little bit more into the center that she directs and the work that she's doing under that center and under her leadership. Move on to the next slide. We have released the first set of recommendations and findings from our work from last year, and I just want to point that to the group. If you haven't seen it yet, there is the QR code. Please scan it, and so that you can dig deeper into those recommendations from last year. Just want to highlight some of the recommendations that was included in the report. The first is English for immigrant workforce. We know that immigrants have a hard time gaining English skill sets is a really critical component of immigrants and refugees being able to participate in the workforce. So thinking about investments in English beyond just basic skills, but more into industry specific, and how do we help provide those pathway programs to get individuals the English skill sets they need so they can get back to get in the workforce, but also upscaled. The next area of opportunity is economic opportunity, and more specifically on naturalization. Many of you might have attended the great efforts that we convened earlier in the year, where we hosted a visit from USCIS and really elevating the importance of naturalization. Over 50,000 foreign-born individuals in the state of Utah are eligible for naturalization, and this is a really great opportunity. It's a win-win for the new Americans as well as the communities. So effort to invest to gain additional investments to help individuals become naturalized citizens is a focus area. Foreign degree credentialing and training is the third recommendation in this report. Also seeing the reasons, seeing the opportunity for a lot of foreign-born individuals who might not be able to use the skill sets. And that's, I know that Matt Hilborn will be going into more details. That is one of the reasons why we are doing this work in foreign degree credentialing and the work that that the Department of Commerce is doing. So really excited to share with you today some of the progress made in that area. The fourth area is small business and helping new Americans become entrepreneurs. And lastly, rural engagement. This is also a very important priority. We know that a lot of existing resources for new Americans in the state of Utah are focused in the urban areas, Salt Lake County and the Wasatch Front, and the importance of thinking about and hearing from the voices of individuals outside the Wasatch Front. And so Nally and I have been able to travel around the state for the past year and being able to hear from the rural communities. Just a really quick update. We are excited that the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging has officially graduated from EDC Utah. For the past 2 years, we've been working under the umbrella of EDC Utah, and excited to share with you today that the center is now its own 501c3. We will continue to be a partner in the New Americans Task Force, working alongside the Center for Immigrant Integration at the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. This is really aligns with a mission of being able to elevate communities and being able to work with them to catalyze public and private partnerships to close the opportunity gaps that we see. And the new Americans are a very important part of the population we work with, and we're really excited to be able to do this work with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Natalie.
Thank you, Z, for that overview of the task force. And I'm sure you can tell that this group has grown quite significantly. We have a lot of people on the call today that are covering in pretty much the entire state from northern to southern Utah. If you'd like, it would be great if you put just your name and what organization or what region of the state that you're in, just in the chat, so everybody can get a feel for the folks that are represented here. We have our current members who've been with us for quite a while, and we've since last year, and we have a whole crew of new members who are joining our efforts now. I just wanted to give a quick update on the Utah Center for Immigration and Integration. As many of you know, the center was originally put into statute in 2021 that was called the Center for Immigration Assistance, that was really primarily just focused on helping businesses navigate the foreign labor process. In this last legislative session, we were able to expand the scope and responsibilities of the Immigration Center and expand the name as well to really focus on immigrant integration strategies. So the new name for the center is the Utah Center for Immigration and Integration. And you can see on this slide all of the different areas that we're responsible for now with the new center. Of course, global talent and working with industry and partners is always going to be a core area of the work here in the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. So we'll continue to work with businesses and individuals on pathways for recruiting and training international employees, and of course, some assistance around the foreign labor processes. But really, we have now statutory authority to coordinate with state agencies on developing and administering policies and programs related to immigrant integration, looking at statewide strategies for immigration that promote economic opportunities, which is where the recommendations from the task force and input from you all comes into play. Convening power around the task force. So this is an official group of the office of the center, and in partnership with the Center for Economic Opportunity Belonging, that we convene to really inform on some policies related to immigration and immigrants, and to develop and sustain sustainable relationships with local officials, the business sector, and community stakeholders. So that's all of you. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to really be part of this this work with us. And then to advise and make recommendations to the governor, to state agencies and legislature regarding immigration and immigrant integration. So you'll see the center has updated. We're working on updating all of our collateral materials and the website, which will be coming down the pipeline shortly. Thank you to everyone who completed the survey that we sent out for current task force members and for recruiting for new task force members. We had about 120 people reply for new members, representing nonprofits, businesses, state governments, local government, faith-based, and individuals. With this new member group, we have quite a diverse pool of folks who are representing different industries and sectors on the task force, which is really critically important to the work of the task force, the center, and movement around immigrant integration and immigration within the state, is to make sure that we have as comprehensive as an input and representation as possible. And the new committee members' interest areas continue to be around economic opportunity, connected communities, which is that immigration and naturalization space, education, and global talent. From our current members, we had more representation from nonprofit organizations. So with the new current member pool, we have a more diverse pool of stakeholders and strong interest, again, with economic opportunity and connected communities. So those are the areas that we'll really be digging into here over the course of the next year in terms of identifying some policies and strategies and practices related to that. We did solicit some feedback from you all, and thank you to everyone who responded with some more concrete input. The two areas of kind of focus, or people felt the most value from the task force, was around learning and growth. And as it relates to learning, people are really interested in knowledge and skills to better advocate for communities, learning how to collaborate with community organizations and individuals that are working within the immigration space, helping to recognize, respect, and enhance the contributions of different cultures to the educational, social, and economic growth of our state, learning best practices around ESL education, and community building and creating opportunities. Around the growth area, people really wanted to see us dig deeper on some topics in order to help move the needle in the right direction. Encouraging new Americans to openly share collective impact of our efforts by engaging with diverse individuals outside of industry. So making sure that we're getting some representation from other partners and stakeholders. To see more guest presenters give more of a granular view of the challenges of new Americans. And then to seek state solutions rather than national partnerships. We really highlighted last year national partners and the best practices that they were bringing, that they've highlighted and amplified with other states and communities and nationally. And the task force members and respondents really wanted us to see state solutions and opportunities that are happening here locally. So what's next? We also got feedback on how the meeting schedule, the cadence for a meeting schedule, and decided to continue with the bi-monthly every other month throughout the entire year. So we will be hosting the meetings on the last Thursday of the month, every other month. So the next meeting will be in September, and to have it topic focused. So each meeting will have a focused theme to cover, and then also focus on the state initiatives and resources related to the key areas of the task force. We had committees that were meeting last year that helped inform some of the recommendations that that came from the task force. This year, we're planning to move those committees into strategic priority areas because there's quite a bit of interest across the board from multiple committees, and each of these areas really touches on areas of interest for everybody. So we decided to kind of take a collective approach instead of dividing people off into the committees. With the New American Task Force, we really want this to be open dialogue and for folks to stay in touch. There's task force member information. If you are new, I'd love to see you put your information into the Google survey, because that helps us track the sectors that people are from and make sure that you're added to the communication channels. And then to reach out on different topics, initiatives, and other information related to immigrant integration. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to our guests that we have today who are next on the agenda. Before we do that, I wanted to just pause because we've been talking for a long time and see if there's any questions or comments that folks have about the task force or anything else. And I see that there's quite a bit happening in the chat, but I have not been monitoring, mostly introductions, and happy to see everybody who's joined us today. Any questions or comments about the task force, the center, or either the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging or the Center for Immigration and Integration? No? Okay, perfect. Then that leaves us plenty of time to move into the presentation mode, which I know everyone is really excited to hear about. So first, we're going to have Matt Hilburn give some top-level highlights from the survey that was conducted this last spring, and I'll turn the time over to Matt. Matt, feel free to share your screen, and you should have the rights or permission to do that.
Wonderful. Thanks, Natalie. I actually don't have permission right now to share screen, if that's possible to look at that. Thanks for having me, and it's great to be with all of you. As Natalie said, we're excited about some of the learnings from this survey, and it is very much hot off the presses. In fact, I've put together a presentation, which is a long presentation that we won't go through today. And we're also putting together a report that you can read and look through. Those will all be finished within the next few days or week or so. And so we're excited to get all of that published, to share with you more detail as we go, and as we kind of have a little bit more time for you to digest some of the information. But for today, we're excited to share with you a little bit of what we have. And I'll first just add a little bit of color and detail into what this was all about, the objectives. I see a lot of familiar faces on the call, and many of you are probably very aware of the objectives of this research. But for those who may not be, I'll just highlight a few of those quick things here first. Number one is this overarching topic here at the top. The purpose of this research was to help internationally trained professionals living in Utah get licensed in the state of Utah, so that we and they can benefit from the talent that is here in Utah. So that was the objective of this research, was to try to get some data around that to be able to lean into that. We do that through, number one, identifying which occupational licenses internationally trained professionals are seeking. The more that we have clarity around that, the better we'll be able to help those individuals. Identify whatever barriers are being faced by those internationally trained professionals in seeking that license. Identifying basic demographics, which are going to certainly help us as we understand their occupations and their educational background, how we can best support them. And all of this to inform policies and to inform resources that could be available to form partnerships and to be able to support that overall objective. So we sent out this survey. We received 6,000 responses. Very, very cool. A lot of people participated, and a lot of this was due to many of those of you on the call today who shared the survey with your employees and with your network and partners. So we appreciate that very much. A couple of really quick highlights. We talked about the full sample. So this entire sample are respondents who consider themselves New American. If they didn't consider them as such, then they didn't. We we terminated them from the survey, as that was the intention of the survey. 98% of the respondents are interested in applying for an occupational or professional license. Okay, so this is 98% of 6,000 people. And this was just the people who took the survey. So there's a lot of people who are interested in this. 70% of respondents currently hold or held a license to practice their occupation outside of the United States before they came here, and on average have 11 years of experience in their profession. In other words, this is a well-educated, well-experienced, licensed, credentialed group of people who are sitting here in Utah, in many cases not able to work in their occupation due to not being licensed today. So a quick overview. I'll skip through most of this stuff here just for the sake of time. Nice age distribution, roughly 50-50 male, female, currently residing primarily in Utah. Country of origin was many places. In fact, I just sort of cut it off at, say, the top 10 or so, because we did have a lot of other individuals from other countries here, but Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, Cuba. Primary language spoken at home was Spanish. The survey that we sent out was able to be taken in Spanish or English. 76% primarily speak Spanish at home, 20% English, and again, many other languages that we've just put sort of the top few here. And roughly 50-50 language, Spanish versus English, used in a professional setting. When we dive into some of understanding who the group of respondents were, we have for current immigration status, most people selected other, which was when they typed in, they had the ability to type in. They really just typed a combination of these different factors here, but temporary humanitarian status. So we have many people here who are on temporary status. We had a group of people here prefer not to answer. When we get down to permanent resident, we've got about 11%. And then we kind of come down here through refugee, international student, United States citizens, et cetera. And so we've really got a diverse group of current immigration status here. And when we look at, again, the educational background here, really well-educated group of people, high percentage of bachelor's degree, professional degree, some with technical or trade training. And when we look at the actual occupations, it's engineering, it's education. I say occupation, actually, these are the degrees. So these are the degrees that these respondents have: engineering, education, social sciences and law, health administration. This was the field of study that the individuals had outside of the US. And for employment, health services was number one. This was everywhere from doctors, nurses, health technicians, et cetera. And then we get into the construction, architecture, education, professional business services, and then really all across the map here. Experience in the US, I'm sorry, outside the US. Again, a lot of experience outside of the US here. Average is about 11 years, and 70% of the respondents held a license outside of the US. So a couple of quick tips there for you to understand this group is and what the audience looks like. And as we mentioned here at the start of this, the majority of these people are interested in applying for an occupation or professional license in Utah, but only 2% have. It's a very small percentage there. And there's two key reasons for that. One is, in many cases, there's a language barrier. And across our respondents, there's about 50% of people who are very great with English and about 50% who need a little bit more educational or language training. And that ends up being the reason that's holding them back from pursuing a license. And so not being able to pursue a license in their language of preference is a huge barrier. And the second barrier being, a lot of people are unaware how to go through that process. They're not sure where the resources are in Utah, and they're not sure what the process is to get through there. And in many cases, it's very expensive. Some individuals indicated that they spent over $2,000 applying for their license. Luckily, most licenses are less than that, but there is a cost involved that ends up being a barrier for many people as well. So our intention is to highlight all of this really well, and again, when we have more time another day, we'll be able to review this full survey with anyone who's interested, and we'll also have a PDF report for those interested as well. I've probably gone over. I apologize for taking so long, but I think we wanted to leave a moment or two for any questions as well, if there were any.
Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate the top level highlights. There was a question about when the report will be released. I know people are really excited to see it. We are just finalizing and plan to release it in August. And we'd love to hear any other questions. Feel free to take yourself off mute or type them in the chat. We have about 5 minutes or so for questions here.
I'll also add, while people are coming up with any potential questions, you know, one of the reasons why we're putting this in this report is that we'd be happy to make this presentation for anyone who's interested in that. And the report, of course, will also be available to read on your own time.
Go ahead, Arlene.
Hi. So based on the data from the report, is the goal to create like a function within the governor's office where like services such as like where like, you know, professionals from overseas or those who are already here can get the resources they need to translate their credentials from an experience from wherever they come from, so that they can be able to use it here in Utah?
Well, the goal is to be able for people to use their experience and skills here in Utah. What path that they take is going to vary. Our next presenter will talk a little bit about the foreign credentialing process and the work that they're doing right now. But what we're hoping with the survey itself is to really identify the barriers beyond just the credentialing process itself. There's English language acquisition, there's industry and professional networks and connections, there's other avenues that we are hoping to identify through the survey that people highlight as some of the additional barriers beyond licensure. Because in Utah we're making progress in the licensure space, which is great, but there are additional barriers. It's cost prohibitive. Taking credentialing exams or accessing the resources just solely in English is extremely challenging. So when we were doing some of the translation for the survey itself, there's a lot of qualitative responses around giving quite a bit more detail in terms of what those barriers are. We're hoping to tease those out and then identify what, in addition to just, you know, the ability for people to license, what are some of the other opportunities to help people on that pathway get back to work in their professions.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think there was another hand raised.
I think Brianda.
Oh, good.
Hi, yes. I don't know if you mentioned this already, but I saw that 2% already have applied for the professional licensing, and I just wanted for you to just restate, where do people apply? Like, what is the portal people go to start the process?
So that's where our next presenter is going to talk about the process itself. I do want to know, so I'll save your question and I'm sure they'll get into it. And if not, we'll make sure that we dig into that a little bit more. Just one thing before we move on, the study was around status and kind of the impacts of credentialing around that. You'll note that, and I kind of flagged this in Matt's presentation, that about 35% of people responded that either in the other category or chose not to respond in terms of their status. There's definitely, you know, an area to really better understand how status impacts people's ability to work in their professions. Overall, that was an area that I was particularly interested in, and then how diverse that status is, and whether there's opportunities to look at, you know, the different kind of visa categories and pathways and where those might align with the opportunities to relicense. So,
Jane has her hand up. Natalie.
Oh, great. Thanks. I can't see all the hands. I appreciate that.
Dr. Iwangu, I should say.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
good.
Good.
Thank you for inviting us. So I was wondering, there are folks who actually don't have a language barrier. There are some whose credentials have already been accepted, but still, for most of these international folks, they still are not able to get jobs. So are we discussing other underlying factors that are probably behavioral, that are, you know, structural prejudices, which are very common when you're dealing with international people? So not everybody has a problem with English. Not everybody doesn't have a degree. Most people do, others have other skills, but still they will not be hired.
Mhm. Well, I think that that's one of the benefits of this study, is to really highlight to industry and to business the number of people who are here just from this survey alone. We know that there's a lot more people beyond this as well who have education and talents to contribute to our growing industries. And so I mean, we're going to be using this as widely as possible, working with chambers and industry partners to really amplify that, and to really hopefully be able to connect those with education into some of those industry opportunities that exist as well.
I would also add, you know, this is one step along the way. You know, even though the focus of this particular research was on licensing and understanding the barriers there, and as Natalie says, helping everybody just understand this massive talent pool that exists that is not currently being tapped into. Hopefully there's more research to be done in the future, right? That touches on other topics that might even dive deeper into that as well. But certainly would echo what Natalie said in the fact that I think there will be a lot of learnings from this study that will help support that.
Thank you, ma'am. Arlene, did you have another question?
Yes, it's mostly like a comment, because I think the data give a very interesting perspective about folks, because sometimes the immigration dialogue is oftentimes focused on H-1B1 or folks who don't have papers, and there's a perception that, you know, if you're a refugee or if you have TPS, you might not even be a skilled worker. So I'm hoping that once this survey becomes public, other people will see it, and it would help inform the discussion and perceptions about immigrants here.
Thank you. That's our hope too, really, is that this is, as Matt said, just the tip of the iceberg. We get to couple this with other research that we know about the broader immigrant population within the state, and then find opportunities to dig deeper into that as well. So thank you for highlighting that.
And I think for me, by the way, as a researcher, just acknowledging the slide here that so many people may or may not be aware of, that this is a highly educated group of people. And the fact that many of them aren't able to be employed in their field of study is a huge loss to Utah. So even though it's really designed to help the participants, we, as we acknowledged even in the beginning here, we recognize that one of the benefits here is that Utah will benefit from the participants being able to make their way through the credentialing process more easily.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. I see one more question in the chat from Shane in terms of what incentives or grants are available to help employers hire new Americans. There's different grants that are available, not necessarily targeted at new Americans specifically, but that you could include new Americans as one of the target populations. For example, the Talent Ready Utah has a return to work program, and one partner has designated new Americans as a population, as a return to work, who have experienced gaps in their employments due to their migration journeys. So there's ways that, and I'm happy to help think through these or to help amplify them a little bit more, but there's ways that we can look at the existing funding opportunities and identifying where a new American talent pool could help amplify some of the employment opportunities that exist within certain industries too. And that'll actually be the focus for the next task force meeting, is around talent pipelines and language acquisition. And we're hoping to bring some of those players to the table to help present on what some of those existing opportunities are and how we might be able to craft some of those opportunities with to focus on an immigrant workforce. And then Hannah, did we collect information about what professions these folks are currently working in? Yes, we did. And that will be part of the full report as well. Great. Thank you so much, Matt. And we'll keep you all posted. You'll be the first to get a glimpse at the report before we start releasing it into other channels as well. So stay tuned. With that, you know, Utah's made some incredible strides over the past 3 years. To open up pathways for foreign credentialing, even prior to having this research, recognizing that this is an opportunity, an untapped opportunity for us to look at some of the different occupations and licenses that people hold and how we can help people navigate that process and obtain those licenses in Utah. I have here Lauren Beheshti, who's with the Department of Commerce and the Division of Professional Licensing, who's helping to head up the foreign degree credentialing efforts within the state. So I'm going to turn the time over to Lauren, and yeah, feel free to share your screen.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. I'm going to go ahead and share this screen real quick. And I am joined by my colleague at the Division of Professional, I'm sorry, excuse me, at the Department of Commerce. Hold on, sorry, just kind of our umbrella agency, Carolyn Dennis. One second, I want to get the correct screen shared for you guys. Can you all see my slideshow now?
Yep, we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Carolyn, do you want to go ahead and get us started? As I mentioned, we're both from the Department of Commerce, so we are that agency that regulates and issues licenses. So we can get to some of the specific questions that were asked about where do you apply and are there funds available or is there any support to help offset the costs? I do have updates on both of those. But yeah, my name is Lauren Beheshti. I'm from the Utah Department of Commerce. I'm joined by Carolyn Dennis, our Deputy Director at the Utah Department of Commerce. She's going to start with some higher level kind of overviews and updates for us.
So thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Natalie and Z, for letting us present and share some information with your group. So first, I wanted to answer Brianda's question. I think that's who asked it, about how to apply. The Department of Commerce oversees just shy of 50% of the licenses issued in the state of Utah. And so a lot of those are done through DOPL, which Lauren and her team work for. However, the other 60 to 50% are done outside of Commerce. We do have one staff member, and I believe I saw his name on the call, Jesler, who is located in our Office of Professional Licensure Review, who can help applicants navigate if they aren't sure where they need to apply. So the Department of Commerce is where you can come if you don't know where you are licensed or if you're equivalent someplace, and we'll help you find it. But some of those agencies, like teachers, are done through the Department of Education, and they're easy to find. Others are not. So just always reach out to us and we can help you. You can reach out via our email, which is commerce@utah.gov. if you're not sure, and we'll try and help you find where you need to go. Jesler also is helping other agencies figure out how to get individuals licensed who don't meet our traditional pathways. And so we have some resources that can help you with that, including, to answer Erlene's question, some limited funds to help with credentialing and help offset some of those costs. There's not a lot of money there right now because we didn't know what the need would be when we first asked for it, but we do have some. And so please just reach out if we can be of assistance. And then the second thing I wanted to talk just a little bit about, and this goes really well into Natalie's explanations of ways to grow. With the Unified Economic Opportunity Committee, the Department of Commerce is heading up proposals to update the language that we have been working on over the last few years to remove barriers for people that have experience in specific professions. We have an idea of some of those exact professions that are inside of commerce, but we are asking if you guys can share those barriers with us as you've experienced them. We understand that you, as the people experiencing barriers, are going to have a lot more insight into how we might be able to smooth the way while still upholding our purview of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Utah. And so if you have experienced barriers, if you know of people who have, I would just encourage you to please share what those barriers were with us. Again, commerce@utah.gov. That will get to me, and we can start trying to address those specific areas that are preventing individuals from going to work in their chosen fields. We really want to make sure we keep hammering away at this. It's not perfect now, and it'll take a long time to get perfect if we ever reach it, but we need your help to understand where we need to improve. And that's what I have to offer. Lauren, I'll turn it over to you to go into what you have been working on.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, I'm going to bring us to the next slide. Hoping, awesome, that folks can see this. So those are kind of our department level updates. So speaking specifically about the Division of Professional Licensing and our efforts to reduce barriers for internationally trained folks, I want to give you an idea of what our latest numbers are. Who has been contacting us? How many people have been contacting us? From what types of jobs? Where are they living? Where are they coming from? You know, what are they interested in? All that sorts of stuff. That's the super interesting stuff for us, and presumably for the folks on this call who work with a lot of these professionals or who are professionals themselves. So since so I joined the Division of Professional Licensing in November of 2022, and we got off to somewhat of a slow start. The legislation that introduced these efforts to remove barriers for folks trained in foreign countries was introduced in 2022, and then we had an extension of that legislation in 2023. So that's all to say this is new stuff, right? I joined in November, and then we had a ceremonial bill signing of that second piece of legislation that expanded the removal of these barriers to other agencies that regulate licenses. Like Carolyn said, Utah State Office of Education, you know, the Utah Bar, things like that. When we had that ceremonial signing, that got a little bit of news and a little bit of media, and then it totally generated a ton of interest, and we had a ton of people contacting us. So from April, we've had about 2,606 inquiries, about 2,600 inquiries from foreign trained professionals. That's coming in the form of emails, calls, a small number of walk-in appointments, walking into the building, but primarily emails. So that's to say a huge amount of interest, right? Backing up what Matt said in his presentation about the survey for internationally trained folks, there's a huge amount of interest. There's a large portion of highly trained, highly educated, and educated in foreign countries, people who are educated in foreign countries here in Utah, and we're seeing a lot of their inquiries. So specifically, okay, what professions are they coming from? What licenses are they asking about? Our largest group we're seeing is from physicians. So I quickly jotted down that note from Matt's presentation that huge numbers of healthcare workers, we're definitely seeing that. So I'm glad to know that, you know, what they're seeing on the survey side is backing up what we're seeing, and it's all tracking. Similarly, a lot of interest from dentists. We have a lot of great highly qualified, internationally trained dentists here in the state of Utah that have been waiting to get their licenses, and they've been navigating this process for a long time. And it's just our main priority to get to these folks. And then we have a lot of interest from engineers as well. So I include that just to show kind of what our top professions are. This is where we're getting the most inquiries from, but we're seeing it across the board. I mean, we're seeing a ton of cosmetologists. We're seeing, you know, lots of inquiries from like construction services folks and contractors, plumbers, electricians, things like that. So it's really to say we're getting a good mix of inquiries and emails from folks who are interested in obtaining their licenses. So, okay, how many people have we been able to talk to? How many people are, you know, somewhat in the process? I wanted to share some numbers on that. We have approximately, again, so we're a 2-person team. We just became a 3-person team about 2 months ago. We have about 93 individuals who are in the process, and in process is a very general, broad term. It can mean anything from not necessarily they've submitted an application or they're in our system. They might be in kind of a pre-application stage, and we're talking about what they need to do, what requirements they still have to meet, maybe where they need to go to get their credentials evaluated, if they need to get them translated, things like that. So we have about 93 folks who are in that process, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to answer questions about that. So going back to those non-DOPL regulated professions, so the professions that are not regulated by the Division of Professional Licensing, the education, agriculture, legal professions, we have about 630 inquiries for those professions. So a good number of our inquiries that are coming in, that 2,600 number, they are about professions that are not regulated by DOPL. They're regulated by other agencies, and that's what Jessler helps us out with. Jessler Molina, who's on the call, our newest staff member, our newest third team member. So a decent chunk of those are about other agencies not regulated by DOPL. Something that I really want to emphasize today is that, and this is surely something that folks have become aware of, it is a slow process. Carolyn mentioned all the different licenses we regulate. All those licenses have their own practice acts. They have their own set of laws with barriers and limitations, and they all require research and testing. So that's why it's going to take a while for us to identify the specific barrier in each practice act and what the solution will need to be for that profession. Is it a statutory change? Do we need to wait for the legislative session and ask for some changes in law and try to present that? Is it something we can take care of via administrative rule change? Is there some other mechanism? It's about researching the pathway and identifying the specific barrier that we have to do for every profession. And I'll get more into that for a minute, but I just want to emphasize that that's why this is happening a little bit slowly. We want this to go quickly. We want it to go fast. We want folks to be able to get into the profession that they studied in. But because we have to develop these pathways while we're processing the applicants and kind of build the road as we're walking, that's why it takes a little bit of time. And I'm happy to answer questions on that. And last thing, we do have more resources to come. So as we've seen, like from the survey findings and then from my information here, there's a tremendous amount of interest in getting folks who are trained in foreign countries into the workforce here in Utah. Our governor supports it, our communities support it, our communities need it, they want it, we're all kind of on board here. And so that's just to say that more resources are coming our way, and our team will be expanding, and we're going to get more help, basically, because 2,600 inquiries and 3 team members, we need more help, and we want to be there to help you folks. So going on to my next slide, I'm going to give some updates on our intake process and just kind of how we're prioritizing such high numbers of inquiries with such limited resources now. So up here in the top right-hand corner, that's a QR code that'll take you directly to our website. So Brianda, this would get you to the place where you'd apply for any license that DOPL regulates. So up there, top right-hand corner, that'll take you to our landing page, all things foreign credentialing. We're asking all interested applicants, anybody who is educated in a foreign country, who's interested in obtaining their license here in Utah, we're asking them to fill out this contact form. This is just a screenshot of a couple questions that are on the form. It's available in 10 different foreign languages. English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Russian, I believe Ukrainian, several other languages. There's also a translate button on our website that translates to, I believe, 5 languages. So the contact form, there are a couple more options, so that's good. The applicant will fill that out and fill out some really important fields like what profession they trained in, what license type, what their level of education is. They'll receive an auto response that explains, this is a significant undertaking, and we're in the process of reviewing and researching our pathways, and we look forward to getting back to you, et cetera. They receive an auto response with some tips and links of where to go and what to do in the meantime. This contact form the data comes back to us. It's organized by profession, and this all helps us. We utilize this data to prioritize which professions we're starting, which professions we're starting with, what pathways are we researching first, what policies do we need to research to develop, and where can we, start processing applicants. We kind of have it divided into 3 categories, all of the different professions we regulate and license. Those who, like I said, might require statutory change or, changes in it to our statute, to our code that would have to happen in the legislative session, kind of our biggest, most burdensome processes and the areas in which there are the most barriers for internationally trained applicants. Then we have our second column, which is or our second category, which is more, okay, these professions, there might be ways to get folks licensed who were trained in international countries and foreign countries, but we need to test it. We really need to test it and see what the specific barriers are. That is kind of our pathways research category. And we have roughly that's our biggest category, right? That's our biggest category where the most work needs to be done. We have a lot of research to do. Then our third category is our processing category, where we've been able to issue licenses under these new pathways with reduced barriers for foreign trained folks. So far, we've been able to issue a few licenses in cosmetology. So we are tentatively putting the cosmetology professions in this processing category, which is to say, we have begun issuing cosmetology licenses, so specifically hair designer, barber, esthetician, master esthetician, things like that. We've begun issuing those licenses under these new pathways. So that's to say it's slightly easier when it comes to those professions. One thing I want to really emphasize is that amid so many inquiries and limited resources, we are prioritizing applicants who are in the state of Utah first. We have a limited amount of resources. We have a small team. We want to prioritize folks who are in Utah and who are residents of this state and who contribute directly to this economy. That's not to say that we won't license folks who are coming in and qualified from out of state. We have licenses via endorsement. That's totally something we do. It's just when it comes to that 2,600 number, we have to start somewhere, right? So we're going to start with those who are in Utah. Please direct for those who work with folks, if you know anybody, if you yourself are interested in obtaining a professional license and your training is from a foreign country, please start by filling out that contact form. That is your first stop. And the QR code's right up in the upper right-hand corner, but please have folks fill out the contact form. If you're going to know one thing from today's talk, have it be this, that the contact form is important. Okay, I know that we are coming up on time, so I'll breeze through these last updates. This gets back to, I think, Erlene's question, and Carolyn kind of talked about this. We do have limited funds available to offset the cost of licensing for certain individuals, certain populations. More details are to be determined, and we'll probably be able to give an update on this in a future meeting, but basically there are limited funds available. We have yet to determine and really ascertain exactly for what we can use these funds. Can you use them to help offset exam fees? Can you use them to help offset the cost to take a course that you might need to take? Can they be used for translation and interpretation services? That is to be determined. That is something that that is forthcoming. So we need to identify all that, but there are funds available. It's an exciting update. It's progress being made, and we will have some funds available for folks to use. So more information is coming on that. I wish I could share specific details on this, but it's just early stages. So I just can't quite share that yet, but we are in the early stages of advancing 2 specific solutions, unique ideas for reducing barriers in some of those specific healthcare provider licenses. So we'll have more updates in the fall on those, but I just want folks to know that we are trying to move the needle forward on some of that pathways research and the policy development. We're in process right now. As soon as I have something to share, I will share it with you. Language access updates. We're building off of our existing accommodations, and this is something we care about so much, and it's a top priority for our department, is to provide equal access to our services and programs for folks who speak other languages. We currently offer the ability to take, or the I guess we offer the option to take an exam, to take certain exams in languages other than English. So feel free to reach out if you have questions on that, or visit our website for more information. We have a lot of communications going out in Spanish and English, more and more social media posts we're trying to put out in Spanish. And then, as I said, that contact form is in multiple languages. So we're really trying to build up our language access program, and we're just trying to expand off some of these existing accommodations. So yeah, again, more to come on all of that. I need to stop myself from talking right now, or else I'll take up all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. And I see there's 5. Shall we go ahead and do Q&A?
Yeah, that would be great. If you have questions, feel free to bring yourself off mute.
Awesome. What platform do you use for social media? I'm just going to get right into that one real quick. Hi, Dr. Brito. We use Instagram. We use Twitter. I know Commerce has a Twitter, right, Carolyn? The department, yeah. Doppel has its own Instagram. I know both Commerce is on Facebook and Doppel is on Facebook. Basically, we're on all the usual suspects. I don't TikTok, no, though. Obviously.
Yeah.
So does that answer that, Dr. Brito?
Yes. And how do we connect? Like, do you have the links that you can share with us?
Yeah.
Because I think it will be important for us to share those, because I think you will be updating and sharing new content on your social media. Through the Hispanic Dental Association, we have had a lot of inquiries too, a lot of people contacting us asking, can we get a license? So if we are able to share direct content from you with updates, that will be even better for us, because then we don't have to over explain ourselves and say, no, yet we're still in process. We're just sharing directly from what you are sharing. So I would like to have access to those links, or just I'll look them up myself, but that's good to know.
Carolyn
you.
put one in the chat, and then we'll also follow up from this meeting with the recording, as well as the links that are put into the chat here as well.
Jessler, did you want to make a comment real quick, or did Carolyn take care of that?
Yeah, I just want to say quickly to Dr. Brito, we're sharing mostly on Instagram. Has been a huge success for us on sharing all the information. So I will say follow the Instagram account for Commerce, and then follow the Instagram account for Doppel. You know, we're constantly posting almost weekly any updates regarding that we have on regards to licensing or any other information that is important that we want the community to know. That will be my advice. Also, if you can send an email, letting us know your accounts, and then we can make sure to try to tag you when we're posting. That way you are aware of what we are putting out there.
Thank you, Jessler. I want to get to Hannah Rex's question, if that's okay. Nobody has, okay, awesome. So what can an applicant expect after filling out the applicant information contact form? Thank you for this question. Like specifically and literally what they will receive, what they should receive is an auto response explaining, thank you for your interest. Here's our website where you can go find, you know, I want to say everything that you'd want to know, but I know that there's always going to be questions, right? So a link directing you to all of our resources online. And then basically that's it for the time being. You'll receive an auto response. You're on our list. And like I said, we have these different priority tracks. And depending on what profession you're applying for, what license you're applying for, we have your information. We're trying to direct you to like frequently asked questions and resources and tips that you can work on while you're waiting for more information. But basically, you're going to get an auto response. We're going to provide you all the tips and resources we have. Chances are, I mean, we might be closer along than you know we've shared regarding your specific profession, but just in terms of our pathways research and everything. But basically, apart from the auto response and the links and resources, we are going to update you with more information as we have it. That's really as good as we can do at this point, because we're researching, we're working on a couple different professions right now. Those healthcare professions are top 3 most priority professions. That's taking some time, but we are moving down the list in terms of our top our top professions. I know this is a rambling answer, Hannah, I'm sorry, but basically we will give you more specific actionable information as it becomes available. And trust me, we are not going to forget to do that. We want to update you all so bad, and we want concrete, specific, actual updates that will help people. All right, I hope that helps for now, but basically we're going to give you links and resources. We're going to acknowledge you. We're going to get you on our list. And then as soon as we have updates on, hey, we made a change, go see if you are eligible, we will let you know. So check, just keep checking your email and keep checking our website. I hope that helps.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. We're at time now. So first, I just wanted to thank our presenters, Lauren and Carolyn, and our colleagues at the Department of Commerce, and of course, Matt, for the highlights on the survey. Our next meeting is on September 28th, not the 29th. And I will send a link out to everybody who's on this call to register again, and you'll get the information for that. But the topics around talent acquisition and language, talent and language acquisition. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out to us, to me or to Z, if you have topics or follow-up that you'd like to see or to hear. This is a group that's really helped to inform each other and help inform our work at the state and within community organizations to move the needle on immigrant integration. So thank you all for your time. And again, feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.